So success, Steve, that's this month's topic.
Yeah.
So I found it really, really useful one because it's something I've never really thought about in depth. But yeah, how have you found it?
So success is yeah, you're right, is hard, and I think it changes over time as well.
Yeah.
You know, when you're young, success is about maybe materialistic goods, maybe, or you know, getting to certain points, and as you get older, maybe you start to reflect back at it and think, well, actually it's time I spend with people, or you know what I mean, and you start to think, well, health's that, because you don't think about health when you're young, but then when you get older you do. So, or a life event causes you to think of that. So success is very personable, and it's a real hard one in this society, because also we're constantly bombarded with other people's measures of success, and it makes us feel potentially either inadequate, or it makes us feel you know, like, oh, I'm better than that person or something. So yeah, it creates a really weird atmosphere, I think, with modern technology and social media.
It does, doesn't it? It's that comparison, isn't it? And it's so easy to compare yourself.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for that, you could be quite happy with what you've got yourself. But it's almost like the unknowing. It's like if you didn't know about, you know, if you were quite happy in your Ford Escort and then someone pulls up next to you in a Ferrari, it's you may not have even heard of a Ferrari before. You just see it, you go, oh, and then you look at what you got and you sort of compare. Yeah. But you don't know that person's history or story, do you?
You don't know what's going on. And I mean, I believe in this myself very strongly. I think as we've evolved over the years, you know, we're not made for the society we live in. We come from a world where we probably, you know, let's say 200 years ago, we might have heard one bit of bad news in the space of our lifetime. You know, maybe somebody got murdered or something in our village, or something really shocking bit of information that we hear once, and you learnt it very personally on people chatting. Nowadays we're bombarded with bad information and comparisons. So we're just seeing so much information, and there's so much judgments that within that, you know, and it's very difficult for kids as well, right, to try and work out what I want to be and who I want to be, and they've got all these comparisons.
And like you said, it changes over time. But because you said about childhood sort of dreams or goals, and like, you know, people want to be actors and movie stars and professional football players. So that sort of, you know, it typically changes with success. Yeah. And obviously, so, you know, if you think back of where you started from and what you wanted to do when you were younger, then probably not many people have achieved those goals, because they were very different to what reality is. When you grow up, you sort of change. Yeah. It changes. So what was your journey to understanding success? My journey was really, it almost shocked me, because I had a bit of free time. I just dropped off Isabel to a Scouts thing, and I come back it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. I got back at home, everybody else in bed, and I just thought, I'll just think about success. So I had my laptop out, and I'd never thought about success before, ever. And so the first thing I asked myself was, well, what would I class myself as successful? And then straight away, really incorrectly, I thought, would somebody else describe me as successful? And I straight away went to, you know, wealth, as in, you know, how big my house is, what car I drive, and my job. And that's sort of 3 things I imagine someone would judge me on whether I'm successful or not. And then I soon realised that's quite incorrect, and it should be really more personal, what I value in life, and that may not be that sort of wealth sort of category. So then, but I'm a typical bloke. Well, I probably shouldn't stereotype it, but it's quite hard for me sometimes to go, well, what do I want? What is it? What is important to me personally? So then I struggle to come up with a way to work that out. So I'm sure everyone's different. Some people go, oh, I know exactly what I want. But I'm not like that. So that's where it was quite useful for me. And I remember seeing that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah. So I thought, I've heard about it before, so I thought, well, maybe that's a very basic level of, if that's what, you know, it's supposed to be what we need in life. Yeah. The very first category, I think it says food, water, shelter.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, well, does that mean for very basic stuff, if I've ticked that off, would that then, as I go up this pyramid, does that mean I can then tick off success? And I started looking at it and I go, well, it's not that personal for me though still. So, the only way I could work out was I imagined myself sat in a coffee shop, and I imagined people coming in, and I sort of thought to myself, if I see someone, which envy is probably the wrong word, but I admired what they've got, then surely that would mean something for me. So it was literally just me sat there thinking about it, thinking, okay, so who would walk into a coffee shop? I visualise these people and like someone there with their family, like a young child, and having a positive connection with them. I go, that's something which I can resonate with. And I say envy is the wrong word because touch wood, I think I've got that with my daughter and my stepdaughter. So, but that was one of the things. So I thought, okay, that's important to me. So I sort of ticked that off, and then I thought about someone there with a loving relationship and a partner. So that was something that was important. And it was even something simple like someone sat in the corner reading a newspaper with the world going past, and for free time. That's something which I value, and something which I do envy because sometimes I don't have that in my life. So there's a little list I've written down because I knew this would come up. So this is my little list. I've got family connection, love partner, financial security, and what I mean by that is not necessarily rich, but just not necessarily wanted to worry about
No one's
money.
knocking on the door.
Someone going into a coffee shop and counting their pennies out and actually going, no, you can't put that back, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
That was something. So that was sort of where I was going with that one. Happiness and living in the moment. So I imagine someone walking in and just being really cheerful and just being engaged with everything going around. And sometimes I think I fall short of that sometimes. So that was something else. Free time, I've already said. Friendships and close friends. Somebody going in with a group of friends, having a laugh, having a giggle. And then health. And that could be because at the moment I've got a dodgy knee and it's stopping me running and all that sort of stuff. But imagine someone coming in with their running gear on, or doing something sort of sporty.
Yeah.
And that's something else. So it was really useful and I've put it down here. I think this is, to summarise, it was things that you're either working towards or know you've already got but you don't want to lose.
Yeah.
And I thought that was sort of how I summarise those things.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's. I probably should have spoke to you about it.
Yeah, because you say that, and I showed you a common thing I use in coaching. There's a common tool called the Wheel of Life. And in the Wheel of Life, we try, you work with a client and you look at their world and you split it up into different segments, and you've got career, money, health, friends and family, partner, significant other, personal growth and learning, fun, leisure and recreation, and physical environment, e.g. home. Yeah, and what you do with that pie that you subdivide is you say where you are in that and then where you want to get to. So what you end up with is a clear vision of the areas of your life where there are gaps with where you possibly want to be.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like a bigger house, or I'd like to be living somewhere else. That might be there. And in terms of personal growth, do you feel like you're in that place? And it's a good way of dividing it, and it's brilliant that you did that, because that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, it's a similar sort of thing, isn't it? But it would have saved me a lot of time if I just had a little phone. I don't think you would appreciate me phoning you up at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but it's a really good way of being able to do it, because sometimes you're right. What's brilliant with what you did there is you went through the process of, how do I judge success? Is it this? Is it that?
Yeah.
And it, you almost need a framework to map that across, and it is very personal, And like I said, it changes over time. Like at one stage, it's all about career or getting to the next rung of the ladder, and then frequently what happens is you think, actually, I'm quite happy where I am, or that's, and then you start thinking, well, where do I want to go next, or am I still? And loads of things happen with success when our life changes. Like it might be, you might lose a job, or you might retire, and then you have to reassess. Well, am I happy? If I've retired or something, what do I want to do? Where's my success? What do I want to do? I just think that's a really fascinating subject.
It really is, isn't it? The more you think about it, because I start thinking about like say someone won the lottery, and you go, okay, where does that mean that everything you achieve after that point, it'd be hard to feel that success because you were given it almost.
And what you're mixing in here is happiness. Okay, there was a study, and I think it was done with American Army, and what they did is they looked at people's happiness levels. Okay, and they judged what the happiness levels are. It was recorded. And then what they did is they compared the two different groups of people who won the lottery, a significant sum of money, and people who were in a significant accident and became paraplegic.
Oh, okay.
And they looked at the happiness level of where they were before, and they looked at them when they had this life-changing event, and then what they looked at it was a year afterwards. And what they found was, yeah, of course, the happiness level altered on the basis of this life event, but after a year, they came back to the same level again. So in other words, we've got a base level of happiness, and when we're looking for, I'll be happy when, ultimately, it will make you happy for that moment, but then you'll go back to that base level of happiness.
So we've all got our own sort of base level, so it doesn't matter necessarily what happens to us, whether it's negative or positive.
Yeah.
We'll pretty much return back to that sort of base level.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know if you felt that before, where you thought, oh, I must get that, and you get it, and then you're like,
now
what? Yeah. And success is all mixed into that happiness level, because it's about contentment, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's about, contentment with where you are and who you are at that moment.
Yeah. No, it is a fascinating subject, isn't it? And it was surprisingly so, because the more I thought about it, the more I thought you can come up with so many different angles.
Yeah.
And success, and it's so personal. It was one of them, a real personal thing. And I also wrote down, which I thought was quite useful, was stuff I was surprised not to go on my list.
Right.
And obviously the obvious one, financial wealth, which you dream about being wealthy and rich and winning the lottery, but actually when you think about it, like I said, is that going to make you happy?
Yeah.
But what I was quite, what I found useful, if I put down things like successful business, profession, or successful being in like photography and that sort of thing, years ago I may have thought that's really important to me, but now I know that that's not on that list. If I ever start getting wrapped up on my work and I'm having a stressful day, and I go, okay, I'm going to have to work late, or I'm going to go into the next day, go, actually, why am I doing this? Because it's not on my list of goals. Why am I getting so stressed about this? Because it's not on my list of success. It's not going to tick it off the list. So why bother almost?
Yeah. And it's when you're ploughing yourself into work and you're getting really stressed with work, and it's
So absolutely. I thought that was quite useful as well, and like status or importance. And I think that's something when I was in the police, I think people tended to look up a little bit to you or look down at you for doing that job.
Yeah.
Either way, you had a certain sort of status about you.
Yeah.
And when I left, I found that, surprisingly, I was quite surprised how much that affected me to lose that a little bit.
Yeah.
Being a bit more of a, not that being a police officer makes you special at all, but you did have something about you, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you lost that.
You're right, and that's, again, this is maybe another subject, but it links to things like retiring or taking a different because you lose your label, because you lost your label in life. You know?
I guess so. Yeah. And I thought that would be on there, but when I really thought about it, I thought no, it's not on there.
Yeah.
So it was really useful exercise. I found it really, really useful.
So your biggest takeaway from this?
I think it's about comparison. I think, like you said right at the beginning, it's wrong to compare yourself to other people, because you don't know. I heard somebody else is saying about, I can't remember where the quote come from, so I should have wrote it down. Saying about success is not about the end point, it's about where you started from, which I thought was really good. And it's a good way to look at it. You don't know where anyone started from in life. You don't know whether someone's successful because they've just been handed it on a plate, or whether someone's really successful because they haven't had a drink for a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Or they're getting through the day without breaking down and crying.
Yeah.
So it is, you're right, it is personal. It is very much, it's so subjective. It's so subjective. But I think the key thing that I think I get from what you said there is it's useful to look at where you are on that wheel of life, and and think about where the gaps are. So do I need to spend more time with my family? Do I need to spend more time actually forgetting about my work and spending more time with my family, because that's what's important to me.
That is a really useful exercise. And so we'll have to put it up on our website, the Wheel of Life.
Wheel of Life, absolutely.
Really, I'd definitely recommend anyone doing that.